Guys, to do the goon, of course, we'd be here all day if we spoke about why do we only do it in certain times? Why are they showing it now when there's nothing to play for? But today we do have to speak about it, about the lack of fight and what we saw today in the FA Cup. Why isn't it done consistently? And we know why it isn't done consistently. We know it's too rosy and too nice at Arsenal, and there's not an emphasis on winning. There's no point going into that. What annoyed me the most today is that if I take, not to dig them out, because they're actually two of my guys, my favourite players, but they provide the best examples. Ramsey today, whenever he lost the ball, you saw him hurrying in to get it back. You saw him fighting. It was almost this somewhat people felt embarrassed and shamed to lose the ball today, which they worked hard and they fought to get it back. You didn't typically see you didn't see that normally. There was, like I said in a previous video, I cannot remember the game and I so wish I could, but there was an incident. There was an incident of Ramsey with a poor throw, and there was an incident of another one where there was a poor throw. Ramsey didn't engage the fullback. I think it was against Southampton, because something's telling me Ryan Bertrand, but it was slow to engage the fullback and we let him go. West Brom, best example. Oxlade and Ramsey. Sorry, got brain pause there. Both not switched on from set pieces. Typically, you've seen us. Typically, Alexis has even felt foul of it. Ox has had a great season, but he felt foul of it at Munich and Chelsea as well, losing the ball and paying for it, and losing the ball cheaply, and not trying to win it back with enough urgency, and paying for it. Things like that. We've shown that it was not the best side we can put out. Of course, it's not always going to be like that. We had the rub of the green a lot against Chelsea, but it was for the large part a consistent performance. And I mean, on paper, Ospina, Mertesacker, Holding, we know how good he is, but he's very inexperienced. Mertesacker, who's past it, and Monreal filling in at centre half, if I remember correctly, and Ox playing left wing back or whatever. That is a makeshift side, but they believed whatever was said before the final, warm up to the final, etc., was one hell of a team talk or one hell of a talk between the players because they were up for it. But there's no good being up for it 5 or 6 times, and largely when we know we somewhat turned around our league campaign when it was too late and got fifth and it meant nothing. But there's no good being at it now. You need to be at it literally from the first start of the year. The last 2 years we have not started the season well and we paid for it. You need to be doing this in January, in December, in November, which we don't typically fare well in the sense that we typically get injuries and things like that. You need to find ways of winning when you can't do this Wenger ball thing. We need to show consistently have purpose in our play like today. Of course, there was incidences where we slipped into guilty habits, but for the large part, we just tried to put the ball in the back of the net. Literally just trying to put the ball in the back of the net. It was reflected by the chances. Normally, we have a lot of possession and not enough people actually shooting. Today, you saw Bellerin shoot wide. You saw Welbs miss a host. You saw Ozil should have probably scored. Alexis should have had a few. Xhaka had a few from distance. These are the sort of things we need to do. We need to do it consistently. Next year, of course, we can't be confident. This year, you guys have spoken about it before, the whole 3-year thing. Next year, there's no expectations. There's no nothing. I mean, these boys have shown they're capable of everything, and it feeds into the more frustration. For the last 3 or 4 years, we have conceded the same goal. The last 3 years in particular has done my head in. Why is it taking 3 years and counting to fix the problems in regards to crosses? We know we can see the same sort of goal from set pieces and crosses. Like, if we face a big summer, hope to God we fix these things. Well, I can't say we're confident, and it's more frustrating even more because Arsenal show you enough to show they give you enough to show you that they're not good enough to be title contenders, but then they show you enough to show that maybe you're wrong. So that's what makes it more frustrating with Arsenal. And when you look at the stats, it actually 9 times out of 10 the stats actually look better than our favour. It is a frustrating club in many different ways, shapes and form. The players are very frustrating. You saw it today. Aaron Ramsey, you haven't had the best of seasons. I don't think it should be in your fault. You've been unlucky with injuries and Wenger hasn't managed you well. But you see what happens when you keep it simple, when there's purpose to your play. Ozil is always at it, in my opinion, but he gets a lot of critics. Alexis, the same at times this season in regards to his attitude. And there's many other players. Welbeck, you guys know how much I like Welbeck. And insert all your players because, excluding Ospina, like you saw today, best example, like you saw against City, like you saw against United in the league. From keeper to forward, everybody was up for it. Everyone was galvanised. Even the substitutes. Giroud came on, instantly affected the game. Everybody's playing with a point to prove. Everyone was playing with something. He treats every game like a cup final. I keep saying this in my videos, but this is the best example of why I and a lot of people say this, because it's not only me. You set out like a cup final. You have the attitude of refusing to lose, and you refuse to lose. I mean, we had setback after setback. We weathered storm after storm in the game against Chelsea. Even when the Chelsea had a passenger play, they were actually better than us. Typically, when teams score against us, we sink. How many times have we seen against big teams, or even Chelsea, for example, Costa will score, and quite frankly, the floodgates start to open, and that's the first of many. We stayed mentally switched on. We still thought we could win. Fair enough, I believe at this point. If correct me if I'm wrong, they were down to 10 men, so you're somewhat confident whenever you play with one less man. But there's still belief. People were still going for. People were still trying to score. There was still hunger. People weren't being scared. And all in all, it makes it frustrating for us. Like I said, we know we know the low points we've been at this season. I mean, we went from winning 16 games on the spin after the Liverpool disappointment to just being in free fall, no reaction, and ultimately we now have the season where we're a point off, which makes it even more frustrating against Liverpool. We're a point off the top four. Top four was in our hands, failed. Like I said, now the season's finished with these players. It's nice to see a little positivity surrounding the club after the protests and all that stuff this year, particularly for the fans. But the table doesn't lie in regards to the Prem and the Champions League. Like the performances, this win shouldn't gloss over anything, because it's a handful. It's a handful of good performances. You look at City in the FA Cup today against Chelsea, Prem against United, Chelsea when they came to the Emirates. Watford away, I believe, if you want to be real technical. But even then, I can find fault in our performances, and maybe even Southampton/West Ham when we beat them at the Olympic ground. But that's about it. A handful of performances, like I said, and for every handful, there's games where we should have won or showed some fight. That infamous week in December. But guys, deluded Gooner, don't really know the purpose of this. But yeah, just thought to get some thoughts off my chest. I'm signing out. Please subscribe. Please follow. Please comment.